Hello guys and welcome back to Archangel RC. I hope everybody is healthy and well in these messed up times. With a bit of a delay, I'm starting this round of reviews with the Volantex Ranger 600, a plane that has been aging for a while in my workshop because it arrived with a broken elevator control horn and it took me a while to source a new one and fix it. But now it is all good and ready for flight. This is a 3-channel model, which means it has a multifunction rudder and elevator, but sadly no ailerons, which is not a problem, but it does take away a bit from the control and agility of the plane, but being a bit more docile might make it easier to handle by beginner pilots who like to be quite generous with the amount of stick commands they give the model. The electronics inside include an all-in-one receiver, ESC and flight stabilizer, and 2 servos for the tail mounted on top of it. All of this operates on a 1S battery, but since for a reason mine arrived without one, I used a 1S 600 mAh T2 battery I had from another project which had the same connector. It required some foam to be cut in the plane, but it did fit in the end. It also has a USB charger, a spare prop and a user manual. This plane does have a 3-level stabilization system which can be switched from the radio. The beginner option is the most restrictive one. It limits roll and pitch angles severely and keeps the plane level at all times. The middle mode still keeps the plane level but allows you to do loops and gives you more control of the model, and the expert option switches off the auto leveling but keeps the gyro stabilization working. It will not level the plane but will stabilize it from sudden shakes and moves, for instance when flying in windy or gusty weather. Before takeoff, power on the radio, then plug in the battery in the plane. After it is powered, throttle to 100%, you will hear a beep and then throttle down. There should be another beep and the Ranger will be ready for takeoff. You can check that by throttling up a little bit to see if the motor is working. Also, don't forget to always check that all control surfaces are moving and responding in the correct order and direction. And from here, all that is left to do is to apply some throttle and throw the sucker into the air, and if all is good, it should take off nice and easy. To be completely honest, the beginner mode did feel a bit too restrictive for me. It did take a while to do a single turn and did feel kinda numb, so it wasn't long before I switched to the middle mode. Also, I would advise you, especially if you are a beginner with this plane, to go to an open field with no trees near you and have your fun there. Makes it a lot easier to concentrate on flying when you don't have to worry about avoiding trees and bushes. Now, what I can definitely say about this thing is that I really am very nicely surprised by the stabilization system. Seems to be doing a pretty decent job, and the plane does have the ability to do loops, although doing rolls with a rudder-only plane is pretty close to impossible, at least on purpose. A sudden and strong gust of wind would definitely do that for you quite nicely, and also help you test the durability of the model, but being so light, there is pretty much no damage to speak of. Just dust it off and throw it in the air again. Just make sure the battery is still in its place. So, stabilization aside, the plane itself is pleasant to fly, and with that wingspan it would definitely be able to easily carry one of those all-in-one FPV camera and video transmitter modules that work off of a 1S battery. You can check out my video of the Volantex Mini Train Star for a similar project, and that one is a much smaller plane, so it should be much easier to implement here and would have much less of an impact on the flight performance of the Ranger 600. On a calm and windless day, you might be able to get some nice and smooth FPV footage out of it, rather than the dizzying and vomit-inducing mess that would have resulted from a day like today with so much gusting winds. Even without any FPV gear on it though, it is still pretty nice to fly around, and it is a relaxing model for sure. I do like the fact that it does resemble the larger Ranger models quite nicely, and they are great flyers too. This one is no exception either. I would say that would be an awesome model for a child or just a beginner that really wants to take it easy and get into the hobby without a huge investment, especially given the opportunity to do some FPV on a budget as well. I did have some good fun flying it, and I did enjoy those loops a lot, even tried some closer to the ground. Luckily there was some headwind to help with that, but the plane required a bit of a run up at full throttle to be able to pull that off, which is not surprising really. This is not an aerobatic model. Switching to the expert mode does turn off the wing leveling and does make things quite a bit more challenging, especially in the wind, but it also would be a good way to improve your skills, though if you are new to this I would suggest you stick to the middle mode for a while and initially switch to expert only in calm weather. After a while, if you really want to improve your skills, fly it in expert in gusty and windy conditions and do your best to keep it as stable as possible. This will improve your reflexes and orientation a lot. This is how I used to do it back in the day with my LRP Pocket Stream. Those were some awesome flights so many years ago. Now, what I don't particularly like about this one is the 3-channel setup. I find it weird that smaller Volantex models have 4-channel options, but this one is limited to a tail-only control scheme, skipping the use of ailerons, which would have been awesome for this size plane, not to mention that it does have the space and would easily be able to carry 2 more servos, and that would have resulted in greatly improved control and agility, which is not a bad thing. Another thing, which ultimately resulted in this plane being permanently grounded, was that while fiddling a bit with the elevator pushrod trying to get it back in the holder inside the fuselage, all of a sudden smoke started coming out of the control board. I pulled the battery off, and when I plugged it back in, the motor started spinning on its own and gradually came to a stop, and so did the servos, and it stopped working altogether. And this was only after a handful of flights. Now granted, this model has been sitting in my workshop for quite a while, and it is possible something on the PCB might have rusted, which eventually resulted in this failure, which is also what Volantex suggested when I contacted them about it. But I do have my doubts, since I have a ton of other gear in my workshop which has been sitting there for longer even, and none of it is rusted and is working perfectly still. Now, Volantex did say that they have upgraded the board in this plane quite a bit since the version I have, so I can only hope mine was an isolated incident and no one else would suffer the same issue. I did enjoy flying this one, but at this point I am not sure if I will attempt to get it flying again somehow, or if I will attempt an FPV install, since I have so many other projects lined up for the immediate future, but time will tell. Might be a while before I get back to this one. Until then, links for all items shown and used can be found in the description below, and buying literally anything through them would support this channel at no additional cost to you, and you will have my eternal gratitude, as this is my full-time job. Another way you can support me is Patreon. The link is also there, and I would like to say a big thank you to all the people who have supported me so far in any way and would continue to do so. If you have enjoyed this video and found it useful, please feel free to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already, and also don't forget to hit that bell button so you can be notified when I upload a new one. Also consider following me on Facebook for more regular updates. Happy and safe flying, and I will see you in the next one.